Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and the international break is finally coming to an end. Celtic are back in action this weekend, but we still have a few days to kill. There is still a few days of nothingness to drag ourselves through. But today I had a bit of a light bulb moment and I realised there's a series that we've not done for a couple of years now on this channel. So today, it's time to talk about some controversial opinions. Yes, let's talk about that. If you haven't already, please make sure to go down below, hit like, hit subscribe. We're on the road to 50,000 subscribers and we want to get as close to that as possible before the end of the calendar year. So it'd be much appreciated if you could press those buttons. And thank you to everyone who's become a channel member thus far. Remember, you can join the channel by going to the top line of the description below or hitting that join button. Let's get into this, shall we? So believe it or not, it's actually been over 2 years since I posted these videos on the channel when I done a series in 2022 asking for your most controversial Celtic opinions. A very simple and straightforward concept where I asked all of you to give your most controversial opinions at the time, and I gave my reaction to them, whether I agreed, I disagreed, and just kind of gauged how controversial they actually were. And it's about time that we bring that series back, because, boy, over 2 years. Feels weird. Feels like it should be like a yearly thing. And it's not been. So it's back today. Hallelujah, I suppose. I actually don't know why I'm saying hallelujah, because that's the exact opposite of how I feel around this topic. This is one of these tweets that when you see people post it, you automatically put your head in your hand. You facepalm when you see the tweet, what is your most controversial Celtic opinion? And I have to apologise for being that guy today, but I need content for a video, so that's why we're doing it. The reason I say that it's usually a facepalm moment is because there's always a few that take it a bit too far and they give you the worst opinions you've ever read. So today, we're going to see if we get some of those opinions in this video. But what I've gauged from the Ryan118 fan base is usually we're quite sensible. So, without any further delay, let's do it, shall we? Let's look at your most controversial Celtic opinions as of September 2024. So I posted on the Celtic the Funders account so that I didn't have to be the guy that done it through my own account and got ridiculed for it. We start off with Anthony, who says that You'll Never Walk Alone is not needed for league games other than derbies and trophy day / flag day, which I think at this point, to be honest, actually isn't so much of a controversial opinion. I think most people are now inclined to agree with this. I don't think it's controversial anymore. Listen, I love You'll Never Walk Alone, and I love it when we play it in the big games, the European games especially, but absolutely no need for it in any other game. And I've been coming out with that opinion on this channel since the day I started the channel back in 2016. I hate when you're playing St Johnstone Saturday 3 o'clock and When You Walk starts playing. It's horrid. It's abysmal. What I'll say, in recent years, it's picked up a bit, but no, save it for the big occasions. That's all. I agree, Anthony. That's a thumbs up from Ryan118. Got to skip the ads. Elon's Twitter is horrendous. Yanovich is overhated, and most of it comes from having to come on at left back in the derby. Now, this is an interesting one. Let's tie this in with another one that I noticed was brought up earlier, and there's a lot of discourse surrounding it as well. Yanovich was overrated. So we've got Billy saying that Yanovich was overrated, and we've got Kevin saying that Yanovich was overhated. Wow. This seems like one that seems to pop up more often than not nowadays, about Youssuf, of course, Celtic's previous right back before Alistair Johnston was brought to the club. I feel like even in my comments section when he left, there was a bit of a split opinion about his departure. I really liked Youssuf, and I don't think that he was overrated, and I don't think he's necessarily overhated either. Now, I don't mean to be the fence sitter. I know we all hate a fence sitter, but I think that most people are. And if you bump into somebody at the pub, or you bump into a fan in the stadium and you start talking about Youssuf, I feel like most fans in person are able to rate him at a fine level, you know, at the level that he deserves. Nobody overrates him or overhates him. It's always when it comes to the few online who have a strong opinion where this debate begins. Yanovich was a good player, and if people try to say he wasn't, you're lying to yourself, because he was. Yeah, he had a couple of poor games, like every player does. God, Alistair Johnston's had his fair share of poor games for Celtic. Do you remember the start to the season Alistair Johnston had last season? He was pretty bad. You know, it happens to players in of all positions. But I think that, you know, he's somebody that we can enjoy. We can look back on and enjoy. He moved on. He done what every player does at Celtic and uses the club as a stepping stone. But I liked him. I still wish him the best. Do I think Alistair Johnston is better though? Absolutely, I do. I'm firmly on that bandwagon. I much prefer Johnston, but I really liked Yanovich, and I have all the love and respect in the world for him. Yeah. Elliot says that Patrick Klimala would have been a top striker under Ange, and I'll do this one very quickly. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Now, you know me, I was championing Patrick Klimala to get some more minutes than he originally did at Celtic. I wanted to see more of him when he was here, and I thought he was quite hard done by. But I think that the rest of his career, since his departure of Celtic, has probably shown you why he's didn't get the chances at Celtic. He's not that great. And I don't think Ange Postecoglou would have made him that great either. I believe he's just got a move to Australia today or recently, but I don't think it would have ever happened for him, Elliot. It's not a bad opinion though, and it's, as I said, we're asking for controversial opinions. That one is perhaps controversial, but it's not a bad opinion. I just find it very hard to see that he would have become a player. Cal with one about the allocations, which is obviously a very controversial topic every year. He says he's happy with no allocation. When the 2,000 allocation comes in, I'll probably have to move seats since I'm right next to the away section. Of course, away fans make the derby better, especially at Ibrox, but I'd be quite content without an allocation. Which is fair enough. I think if you're looking at it from a selfish point of view, and let's be real here, Cal, and not to call you a selfish person, because I know you're not a selfish person, but like from a selfish point of view, if you're sitting in the impacted areas, you don't want the Rangers fans to come back. I would be the same if I sat in that section as well. So I can see why that is obviously a controversial opinion for yourself. It makes sense. But they have to come back. The derby needs that atmosphere, I think. And I know there is a kind of growing amount of Celtic supporters who are now leaning to we don't need the away section. We don't need Rangers fans at Celtic Park. Let's keep them out. Let's get rid of the bile. Let's get rid of the sectarianism. Let's get rid of what they bring. And let's just keep it 60,000 Celts in a very happy place, taking the mick out of Rangers. Let's keep it like that. But I just think that football at its very, very core relies on rivalry, and it relies on the back and forth, and it's what made the derby as great as it was. The derby feels like a filtered, watered down version of what it was without them. And I don't even want the 2,000 or 3,000 back. I want the whole, 7, 8, 9,000 that we used to get at both grounds. Because that was the way that I was brought up on it. That's the way that I used to watch these derbies, and that's when they were at their very, very best. But everybody has their own opinion on it. And yeah, Cal, yours is definitely controversial. I don't agree with you, but I can see where you're coming from. But I want the fans back in, quite frankly. And I've made that clear a number of times. Let's go through a couple rapid fire, shall we? James McCarthy wasn't actually a real person and was used as a way to launder money for Celtic. Do you know what? Yeah, AI. James McCarthy is AI, Dougie. Absolutely. I love a funny, controversial opinion. Kuhn is a better footballer than Abada, and this one's actually gathered up some likes as well. Is he a better footballer than Abada? I think it's too early to suggest that. I think that that's an example of us as Celtic fans and how reactionary we can be. Nicholas Kuhn has played well for Celtic for, a couple of months, whereas Abada was here and was a key part of our front three for a good year and a half. We can have that conversation, I think, in 6 months to a year's time, and we can gather who's better between the two. I think it's far too early. I think that is controversial, Marty. But I like the route you're going down, and I think in a year's time we could be agreeing with you, Marty. I really do. Dyson Maida is the first name on the team sheet for me, says Jamie. And right now, to be honest, you could argue that's the case. I guess if you're wanting to be brutal about it and just be boring, then you would go, no, he's not. Callum McGregor is. He's the captain, and the captain's always the first name in the team sheet. But let's take that boring side of things away for a minute. I think for Brendan Rodgers, Dyson Maida, you could argue, is the first name in the team sheet for him. He's been kind of pivotal at different points of Brendan Rodgers' managerial or second managerial run at Celtic. That kind of transition between Ange to Brendan, Maida's helped a lot through that, I think. And yeah, you could argue that case. I don't think that's necessarily controversial, but that's always going to be a subjective one. People will argue, no, it's McGregor, or it's Kyogo, or it's, well, O'Reilly was here and now he's gone, it was O'Reilly. You know, people will argue their case for their maybe favoured player, but I think that there's a genuine point to be made for Dyson Maeda. I asked for controversial opinions. Che has given us controversial yet brutal opinion. He says Ryan Christie was absolutely woeful at Celtic, couldn't kick his own arse. Other than a goal against Lazio and a few assists against a Dundee team with Charlie Adam in it, the guy was so bad, constantly went missing against Rangers and in Europe. An absolute myth of a player. And don't even get me started on Turnbull, says Che. Do you know what? Controversial? I don't think it's necessarily controversial. I was never a huge... People can go back and watch my videos. I wasn't a huge Christie fan, and I certainly wasn't a huge Turnbull fan either, apart from the COVID year. So I don't think it's necessarily controversial, Che, but you've been very brutal. If this was a brutal opinions video, you'd be thumbnailing the fucker. Genuinely. Jack Daly says, 5-year limit on season tickets. Wow. Too many folks selling their tickets, still in their name, stopping people on the waiting list who have been on the list for years and years getting a ticket. It's a crazy suggestion, but as a non-season ticket holder, it becomes so frustrating. Wow. Wow, a 5... So, would that imply that me, if I got a season ticket, I'd only have it for 5 years? Is that... Because I can't agree with that. That is a controversial opinion. A very controversial opinion. Look, I think more has to be done at the club to ensure season tickets are being used. But at the end of the day, once you have a season ticket, that's your season ticket. But I get it. It's so frustrating for non-season ticket holders. I do understand that, and I can't understand it as well as they do right now, because I've had one for almost a decade. But I'd be raging. I'd be protesting if I got mine ripped off me after 5 years, especially because I have no intentions of ever giving mine up or selling it to anybody else or not using it. I'll use mine till the day I fucking pop my clogs. So I don't want mine taken off me. That is a controversial opinion. The club should assess situations though. I like this new Manchester United system that they've got going at Old Trafford, where you can transfer your ticket to the club so that they can sell it if you are not going to use it for a game, or you can donate it to charity so they can give it to somebody who can't get to a game on it. You know, I just something like that. The demand for season tickets isn't going to go away anytime soon though. The only thing that can fix that is an expansion of the stadium, which I just don't see happening. Listen, patience is going to have... Celtic aren't the only club in this situation. It's as simple as that. So you're probably just going to have to wait until Celtic are shite again, which isn't going to be anytime soon. I get a few people asking me to keep politics out of the channel and out of football, but I'm actually really glad that Mordecai has commented this, because I've made this point abundantly clear on my channel before, and if people don't like that sometimes I get political, I tell them, well, don't watch this video, or you know, just mute me, whatever, because if you don't want to hear it, then I'm not forcing you to hear it at the end of the day. I don't think we should stamp politics out of the club. I don't think we should stamp politics out of football. I agree 100% with what Mordecai has said here. If you know your history, Celtic Football Club is a club that is so unravelled, and the very fabric of the club is steeped in politics. A club that I'm so proud of, that its supporters, and a vast majority of its supporters, stand for the right thing and stand on the right side of history. I'm so proud of that, and I wear that like a badge of honour, to be quite honest. And I would never let anybody tell me that that shouldn't be the case. And we all know the story. I don't need to give you a history lesson, but why should we suddenly forget that? Why should I let someone say keep politics out of football? And I've made that clear 100 times. I know that's a controversial opinion, and that's the whole point in this video. So thanks, Mordecai, for backing me up. Add the lad saying that Scott Sinclair's 16-17 season is the best individual season we have seen in years, which is obviously... Wow, that could be controversial. I mean, you think of the individual seasons that we have seen, and I mean, what do we define as recent years? Are we just talking post-Larson? Are we talking the last decade? Are we talking the last... You know, what is recent years? Or in years, you know? If it's since Larson, you know, there's obviously a few people you could talk about. Nakamura had a couple of great standout seasons, but didn't maybe provide the same numbers as Sinclair did. Moussa Dembele had a great individual season as well, but Sinclair at that same time was fantastic. Callum McGregor's had great individual seasons. Scott Brown's had great individual seasons. I think it's really, really hard. Kyogo's had great individual seasons. Matt O'Reilly last season, you could argue, gave us one of the best individual seasons that we've seen in years. It's such a hard one to gauge and judge. I think it's controversial maybe to say Scott Sinclair, but he's definitely up there, Adam. There's no doubt about that. I might need to do a part 2 of this. I never realised how many responses I got to the tweet, so we're going to do a couple more quick fire, and then we'll see about maybe doing a part 2 before we come back at the weekend. This is the strongest starting 11 and bench that Celtic have had since at least 2004. Oh, it might be, but listen, I think it's, once again, I made this point earlier, too early to judge. For all we know, the signings we've made could be duds. I'm hoping not, touch wood, but you never know. So I'll make that observation or judgment in a few months' time. But Regan, I like your confidence. I would have Gary Hooper above Odsonne Edouard on any list since the best since Larsson, behind Kyogo and Dembele. Wow. Controversial? Maybe. Where would you have Hooper, Edouard? Who's better in your opinion? Both great, and Gary Hooper's definitely up there. He deserves to be up there. And then we'll end on this one. We've got Carl Starfelt. We've got 2 from Jake. We'll end on these 2. Carl Starfelt is a top 3 centre-half I've seen play for Celtic in my lifetime. I'm 18, by the way. That explains a lot. That does explain a lot. I feel sorry for the severe lack of quality in centre-half I've had in your lifetime, Jake. But, I mean, I'm only 6 years older than you. Which feels like there shouldn't be too much of a difference. I don't know where I'd rate Carl Starfelt. He's definitely not my top 3, but that's a wild opinion. And then finally, the Celtic Symphony is an overrated tune. I'll let you battle amongst yourselves in the comments to decide your opinion on that. Right, that does it for today. If you want a part 2 of this, let me know in the comments below. You could even drop your controversial opinions in the comments below, and who knows, we could revisit this in the next international break as well if we get an abundance of controversial opinions. But thank you for your contributions on Twitter, and thank you for watching today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next time. Shout out to everybody who has joined the 118 Club or the Thunder Club thus far. Thank you for your continued support here on Ryan 118, and enjoy your moment of glory here on screen.